But you guys were a pivotal pillar in that business growing to as large as it was. If you don't mind me asking, at the time, what was the roundabout dollar amount that hit for you in the 20s?
I mean, I made a couple $100,000 on it. It wasn't like life-changing, but I was able to take that money and put it to business school.
But hold on.
Yeah.
That is life-changing.
That
is life-changing
right,
in your
but
20s.
I mean, like, I still had to work.
Of course.
Wasn't, But
I mean, to be able to now move forward in what you want to do with no worry of I got to go take on all this debt.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to you both.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
Dad said, put it all in that. Put it into the ESOP.
But it's also like in med tech, getting on the crest of the wave of technology versus the crash of the wave is really important.
Dude, we all have the best time ever to start a small business.
If I'm not going to be 100% in, I'm not going to do it.
Come on, man, just be yourself.
Yeah,
and just show up as yourself.
If you don't realize what I'm really about, I'm about freedom, family, and my country. Carla, Mia, thank you for coming to the pit.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
This is so fun.
This is awesome. Thank you to Craig and Basil for connecting us. Really excited to have you guys both. You guys are twins.
Yep, we are.
Very similar, but also very different in a lot of ways. You come from South Jersey. This show is about the locals and
Go Phillies.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't talk about that. I'm a
this
Yankees
is North
fan.
Carolina. We're South Jersey.
But go Phillies, and kudos to them for what they have going on right now. You guys both have taken similar paths at times in your life, and then also gone separate ways, and both have had tremendous success as wives, moms, and women who are powerful in business. And I'm excited to have you at the pit. For your viewers and friends who may watch this, I was a guy that wasn't that fortunate to be a great student in school. I didn't love college. I was kicked out at a young age, just immature. I wasn't malicious. I just didn't like school, didn't want to be there. I was hyper. And I always said, as I was coming up, not a lot of people wanted to help me, right? It was like, you don't have a huge network of people, or you're not this, or you're not that. I said, when I have a couple shekels, I'm going to turn around and help the next person. And I could see in both of you, with your foundation, the teams that you build, you guys are doing that in your communities, in your organizations. And again, thank you for coming here. So cheers once again.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So South Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Sojo.
Exit 4 house. So we had the curly hair.
Phillies. Are you Eagles fans too?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we don't really know much about football.
They're also they're killing it too.
The Flyers, the Phillies, and the Eagles.
We grew up all
Phillies got a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Not last night.
Voorhees East High School.
Eastern High School. Yep.
And then from there, you guys went into Villanova.
We went to Villanova.
Right, in Philly as well.
She did not want to go to school with me. I wanted to go with her.
I did not want to go to school with Mia. I did not.
How come?
Well, you wanted to go West Coast, as far away possible as you could get.
I wanted to go to school with you, and she was did not want to go with me. And then we happened to go to a party together at University of Maryland, and I remember her looking around, and there were so many people, and she was like, okay, we'll go to school together. Because it was
I remember it like that.
I totally remember that.
I remember sitting in the chapel at Villanova and being like, I have found my home. And you were like,
It was the chapel?
I love the church. Villanova was a special place.
Great basketball
team. But we both
team.
traveled abroad, too, that we both did.
You didn't travel abroad.
Well,
you went to D.C.
That was my abroad. I was a White House intern.
I went to London.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Under what
with
president?
Monica.
With Monica?
I worked with Monica Lewinsky in the Clinton administration.
Interesting times.
Interesting times.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad has a line. He always says, I'm a little embarrassed. My daughter Carla worked for Bill Clinton for 7 months and never got hit on by the president.
What did you do there exactly? What were you doing?
So backstory was I thought I wanted to be Connie Chung and be on TV. And I
Connie Chung killed it.
Connie Chung, Carla Jung. I thought it was like a natural progression. And I got down, and I worked actually at America's Most Wanted, if you remember.
Yeah.
That show.
Absolutely.
Worked with John Walsh, and I absolutely hated it. It was terrible. They put me in the missing children section. I had to follow
sad
up.
as hell.
It was awful. And I was 20 years old. And I remember first day, my boss put a stack of papers on my desk and said, your job is to follow up on the missing children that, have come across the hotline the night before. So I, call the first one. I say, hi, Mrs. Smith. I'm calling to follow up on your son, Jimmy. I'm from America's Most Wanted. And she broke down in tears and she said, you're, about 10 hours too late. He was found dead in a dumpster.
Wow.
And I said, how are you doing? Are you okay? And then I quickly realized that it wasn't for me because I wanted to know how are you doing? And my boss was like, you need to know the who's, the what's, the where's, the when's.
Yeah.
So then there was a position open at the White House and I moved over to the social secretary's office and got to help the president and Mrs. Clinton put together big parties for the cabinet and social dinners.
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
That was a great experience, though.
Yeah.
Probably learned a ton.
Learned a ton.
Quickly get thrown into the fire.
I did. It was fantastic.
And at the time, what were you doing, Mia?
I was in college. I forget what year you went.
It was
Sophomore
junior year.
Junior year. And then I ended up going to London for a semester. So she was gone for a semester, and then when she came back, I left and I went to London, studied in London.
How did you love London?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I just remember it was the first time I was out of the country, and it was just, opened up my eyes, made me realize how much I wanted to live in a city when I eventually left, graduated from college.
You were in a city in Philly.
What's that?
You were in a city in Philly.
Yes. Yeah, we were the suburbs of Philly, but we went into Philly quite a bit as Villanova students. But I loved London. I loved the ability to be able to go travel to all of Europe,
Quickly.
having a home base. Yeah.
I was telling you, my wife studied abroad in Florence, and that's what they did. I mean, they were everywhere. They were able to pepper, obviously, Italy pretty quick, and the rest of Europe, all via train, really.
Yeah.
Or hop on a quick
Europass.
flight. Yeah. What were you guys studying in college? Were you both in the same undergrad?
We were communications and business.
Business right from the get-go.
Yeah, right from the get-go.
So major in
Liberal
communications,
arts.
very general liberal arts, and then minor was business.
And we had a quick conversation prior to hopping on here. You said your father knew quickly at a young age, at like 4 or 5, that you both would be in some type of sales.
Yeah, well, I probably have the memory, so I'll
my
tell the story.
memory's not like that.
So I remember when we were 5 years old, we were sitting down at breakfast, and I think he was smoking a cigarette. He smoked. And he said, what do you girls want to do when you grow up? And I remember saying, I want to be a teacher. And Mia always had this unhealthy obsession with death. And she said, I want to be a pathologist. And my dad was like, oh, you girls are destined for sales.
Yeah.
Because he had been at Xerox. I mean, at that point, I don't even remember how many years, but it was 40 years at the end of his career when he eventually retired.
And he won every sales contest.
23 President's Clubs.
He had the winningest
He's
record.
legend.
As a
Xerox is a great company.
Yeah.
I mean, they produce rock star sales individuals.
Great training program.
They're recruited throughout so many different industries.
Yeah.
I know in the finance space, there's a ton of guys that came from Xerox. I know in the healthcare space as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome that your dad was kind of like helping you guys see that at a young age, that this is something I can do, and pumping that into. That's really cool.
Yeah, but I think we knew we didn't want to sell copy machines. We were like, Dad,
But he got you
sales,
thinking.
okay.
he got us thinking.
Yeah, I think both of us have a passion for helping people live healthier lives.
Yes.
And that's what brought us into healthcare.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to healthcare yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you guys finish up Villanova. Do you go your separate ways at that point?
Well, same but different. We both decided to get into pharmaceuticals, and I chose Merck and she chose Eli Lilly. So went into pharmaceutical sales right out of college, but different companies.
Different companies. And what were you guys doing at the time? What were the product you were selling or working with?
So I went into the women's health division and I sold Prozac, which I had a passion for. Our grandfather passed away. He committed suicide, actually. So the mental health in our family, was present. And so moving into pharmaceutical sales and selling Prozac was
Something you could connect with.
Yeah, it was pretty deep and emotional because our grandfather unfortunately didn't have access to SSRIs, which was Prozac was one of the more sophisticated antidepressants, and he had tricyclic antidepressants at that point when he was growing up, or when he was actually a pharmacist. So I always had this passion because I thought that, gosh, if he had depression around the times that he had access to Prozac, he probably would have been okay. But the antidepressants at the time when he was depressed it was very hard to be compliant on those drugs.
And I think pharma gets a bad name in a lot of aspects, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, they just want to push pills. They just want to push pills. And listen, everything is a business. That is a fact. But it does help a lot of people. How much did you see, or the doctors you were working with, that was impacting people in a positive way? Were you able to see it? Were you happy about it? Years later, did you turn back and say, maybe that wasn't what I thought going in?
I feel like that's why we moved into med tech. So we were a little bit too removed from the patient. I mean, we got to know the physicians. We both had, academy training at 2 incredible companies, but we were too far away from the patient. So when I actually, through our dad,
You weren't at the end user.
Exactly.
we weren't the end
Getting their
user.
feedback.
We weren't close to it. And so when we got a call from our father saying, you need to talk to, this woman about this med tech company, that is like the wave of the future. We talked to her, and that med tech was really for us. I left pharmaceuticals because I just felt too removed. And med tech, you're in the operating room, you're next to the surgeon, you're helping to, drive where the implant's going to go in the heart. Like, you're really the specialist.
Yeah, you're almost like doing the surgery.
Yeah.
I had a friend, I was telling you, a striker, Bernie, and he wants to come on. He's actually just messaged me. He was doing cranial facial.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a tragic accident and they got to remove a part of your skull,
Yeah.
and now they're putting back in this, device.
Yeah.
And he's in there essentially doing brain surgery, which just always blew my mind. He was educating the doctor. So that is definitely a serious. And quickly, you guys said, this is the way I wanted to go, and you both jump in. Where did you go at the time? Did you go together or again went separate?
I went first. This is a pattern. I was like, I'm doing this. I went in, and I forget how long after, 6 months after.
Well, you have to say that when we were in pharmaceutical sales, we lived at home for a couple of years, and Mia was so annoyed by me because we're both workers. We both put our heart and soul in our jobs.
But
We love to work.
loved it, and I was like, "This is kind of lame." I was like Carla loved it. She was obsessed with it.
We were getting our nails done. Remember?
Oh my God!
What were
It's
you
like,
obsessed with? Were you obsessed with the people and the work and the systems, or were you obsessed with the product? What were you obsessed
I was
with?
obsessed with the product. I think we had a connection. I had a connection. So Mia worked at Merck, and she had cardiovascular products where I had Prozac. And I think there was a connection because of our grandfather. So there was this story that Mia and I were getting our nails done.
I don't even remember this.
Oh gosh, we're getting our nails done. And I was talking to the person who was doing my nails. She was a wonderful woman. She was telling me she was depressed. And I was like, how long have you been depressed? Have you seen a doctor? And Mia was like, oh my gosh, she's obsessed with her job. I was diagnosing everybody with depression.
But you're all in. You're passionate.
I love,
there's nothing
always
wrong
all
with that.
in. But so from a pharmaceutical standpoint, I think we both got to the point where we were like, we would love to be in the operating room where the action is. And Mia happened to be at Columbia, and you saw a rep that had a bag.
Well, it was Dad.
Well, Dad, you're right.
Dad introduced us to this woman through a Xerox guy, and he was like, "This company
Dad's
is on
a
a
stud
rocket."
networker.
Dad's a stud.
Always.
Yeah.
He's like, "This company's on a rocket
He
ship."
talks to everybody.
He's still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He
73.
rides on the boardwalk up to Asbury Park with his Phillies hat, his Villanova sweatshirt. Sometimes
Didn't
in
you
Eagles.
jump with the Phillies hat?
Not here. Not yet.
Not yet. But med tech was like way more interesting, way more opportunities for upside, and this company
Interactive.
guidance. It was, what's that?
It was interactive.
It was
You
so
were involved.
interactive. It was so technical. I mean, we were in scrubs on, we were 24/7
It is a
on
grind.
call.
You're
it
on
was
call.
a grind. We were there during 9/11, had to run up to the hospitals because they wanted to get the patients off the, out of the
And at that
operating
time,
rooms.
now as you guys moved on from pharmaceuticals, were you at the same company now a year later?
Yes.
We were at Guidant.
Both at Guidant?
Yeah. Which
Both
was
doing cardiac?
Yeah, and what was really, really cool, so when we first started, we sold pacemakers and defibrillators. So like Mia said, we were in the electrophysiology lab, and we were testing wires that go into the heart. And, we were liberal arts majors and business minors, but we were in scrubs testing the wires, telling them, if they had great connectivity to the heart, the tissue in the heart. So it was, it was a lot of training to go through that.
Crazy.
But what was really cool was we were able to help launch technology for patients with heart failure. So we launched this technology.
Meaning you were like a beta test, it was coming down from the company, and then you guys were trying to implement it into the lab and sell it per se?
Yeah, well, we were involved in clinical trials.
That's
So
crazy.
patients that had heart failure had no option outside of just being medically managed. So when our company launched congestive heart failure devices, they put a third wire into the left side of the heart, and that helped patients synchronize their right ventricle and their left ventricle, and ultimately help them with, the outcome for heart failure.
Yeah,
So that
and
was
that
pretty
was cool because you got to see the patients. You would see the
Yeah.
patient before the procedure, ash and gray, and then you'd see them a week later where they have
Some blood flow.
they've got color in their face. Their
The
wives are
bald
like,
guys started growing hair.
yeah, no, the wives are like, I have never seen him with that much energy, and that's
Yeah.
what we both wanted was to be near
Yeah.
patients and being able to talk to
Really
the patients.
care and be involved.
Yeah. I had this one patient story that to me, I always remember. But not only were we in the labs, but we also got to check them in the clinic. So we got to see 3 months later, their ability to actually walk down the hallway towards us, where before, they needed a walker. And this one gentleman, I was checking, we're able to get on the computer and check and see what kind of arrhythmias he might have had if he got shocked by his device. And I pull up this histogram and I said, hey, on September 19th, 2003 at 12:30 in the morning, you were shocked by your defibrillator. What happened? And he started crying, and his wife was sitting there. She said, what date? And I told them the date again. It was the night before their daughter got married. So the device,
so it saved his life.
The device saved his life. And he said, do you realize I wouldn't have walked my daughter down the aisle if I didn't have this device? And that's when I was like, wow, this is really
Well, there you go.
cool.
There's the passion, right? There it's like, okay, I can run with this now.
But it also was an amazing business. So we love the patients. And it's like doing good and doing well. Like, we grew this market in New York City. We grew it from like...
Were you guys both in the same territory? Were you working on the same team?
At one point,
yeah.
So I was down in South Jersey, Philadelphia. Mia was in New York City, and then I ultimately moved to New York City. And Mia and I were partners at Columbia and NYU.
Where'd you guys live in New York City?
Tribeca.
She hasn't left Tribeca.
No, Mia's like an entity in Tribeca.
I love it. Well, I came down after 9/11 because they offered subsidies. So 9/11 drew a lot of people down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not hop on that?
Yeah.
That's that business mind in you.
Oh my God, it was a fun business. We grew that thing, and then we were about to get bought by Johnson & Johnson. No, J&J.
You're right.
And then we had recalls where our device was like put on the front page of the New York Times. Unfortunately, instead of working for saving a patient, it short-circuited and the patient died.
It was a young guy in Moab.
Yeah.
He was mountain biking.
Yeah.
He was 21 years old, and the device that had been put in him did not save him because it was short-circuited.
See, I want to talk about this in the medical community.
Yeah.
Because this is a huge topic with vaccines and everything. And I'm definitely a guy who's got eyes wide open.
Yeah.
What is right? What is wrong?
Yeah.
And it's like, when you do something like that, how many people were saved with that device?
Oh, I mean,
far more.
Far more. The benefits way outweigh the risks.
Yeah.
But this was a case study of a business that was growing like leaps and bounds, and they took their eye off the quality ball, and they were focused on the number.
It scaled too quick to the number.
Scaled too quickly.
Yeah.
Scaled too quickly. And that was a huge, we finally got bought by Boston Scientific, and the money that we both made on it, because it was an ESOP, which was an incredible opportunity to participate in a transaction at a very young age, I put into business school.
Wait, so time out. How big was that company at the time? What was
$1 billion?
$1 billion.
Yeah, it was about $1 billion.
Billion?
Yeah.
And they had it fully set up as an ESOP?
Yep.
So
Everyone participated.
So for people who don't know, an ESOP is something where every employee essentially owns the company.
Yeah.
And it is a massimassive tax benefit to the owners.
And huge retention tool.
Huge retention tool.
It's 15% discount. So you get a 15% discount on the stock.
It's amazing. And you guys participated right off the bat. They gave you something to bring you in.
Yep.
And then as you accelerated up the ladder, you grabbed more.
We deferred our comp into it too.
Yeah. So you
could defer comp, tax free, and so when it hit.
And how old were you at the time?
28. 20, when it hit, we were 20. I was like, we were like 20.
We started at 24 though.
Yeah.
We were really young.
So maybe it was a little
in
bit
the
later.
med tech space.
Yeah.
But you guys were a pivotal pillar in that business, growing to as large as it was. If you don't mind me asking, at the time, what was the roundabout dollar amount that hit for you in the 20s?
I mean, I made a couple $100,000 on it. It wasn't like life changing, but I was able to take that money and put it to business school.
But hold on.
Yeah.
That is life changing.
It was,
that is life changing in your 20s.
I still, I mean, like I still had to work.
Of
it wasn't,
course.
But
I mean, to be able to now move forward in what you want to do with no worry of I got to go take on all this debt.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to you both.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
Dad said, put it all in that. Put it into the ESOP.
But it's also like in med tech, getting on the crest of the wave of technology versus the crash of the wave is really important as you look to.
That's why these startups are huge, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
So moving the story forward, and that is really awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You guys, what did you do after that? Did you stay with the company, or after they had some bad press, you guys moved on?
Yeah.
Well, what did you guys do after that?
I did a part-time business school program, but I found a way to because I could fund it. Our parents were not going to pay for it. found this program that allowed me to work.
Your dad paid for enough introducing you to that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they paid for Villanova.
They paid for Villanova,
we're
but everything
blessed
after
that we had no debt coming out of Villanova.
But
coffee machine sales.
But from there, and mom worked at Honeywell.
And Mom.
But from there, I went to a
Mom
program.
pumped dad, which helped them do the money. The husband who's going to work, or the wife who's going to work, and the other spouse is at home. If I 10% better my marriage, that 10x is my business.
Exactly. Yeah. But and even
Shout
I
out
think
to Mom.
Yeah,
Yes,
shout out to Mom.
yes.
I think she just realized that, like, at the rate we were going and what Villanova cost for 2 people, they weren't going to be able to pay the bill. So my mom jumped in and helped to pay X amount.
Twins are tough.
Yeah, twins are tough. It's like,
And you guys didn't end up with twins?
Huh?
no.
None of you ended up with
No.
twins, no.
I wish we
No,
had.
every other generation, our kids will have twins.
I hope so.
That's cool.
As twins, you have to, what do I always say? You have to learn how to win with humility and lose with grace. Whatever.
Collaboration.
Anyway.
But so took the money, put it into business school, Columbia and London Business School, and was able to, because I lived in New York City, I was like, I can't just go to business school. Like, a lot of people took 2 years off, and I was like, that's just not my thing, and I have to make money. And so did business school alongside of a really cool job that allowed me to travel to Europe and to Asia. And so when I was in New York, I'd be at Columbia, and then I was over in Europe, I would go to London Business School. And so was able to launch these products that we launched in the United States, over in Europe, and then in Singapore.
With the same
eventually.
company?
Same company.
Well, we were in different jobs at that point. We were finance managers.
Yeah, but same company. They wanted to.
And you were still in ESOP, still grabbing.
No, by then they had transacted. So Boston Scientific owned us, so it transferred over to Boston Scientific
merged.
stock. Yeah.
But you still had stock there at the
we got
time.
the bump
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that transaction, and then it went over to stock.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So first of all, this is a lot about business ownership, and you really are a partner in a private equity firm. You are what I call an entrepreneur. You are working inside of a corporate structure and doing very well and building teams. But for some of the people who just fixate on entrepreneurship, that story right there quickly created a liquidity event that did change your life.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't life-changing in the sense where you can go home, but it allowed you to go do what you did and gave you the, what I call the clout to go to London and pursue. And what did you do at the time?
At the time of...
She went over to London Business School.
You were having a baby.
I remember. Gosh, so I decided to make life really easy and have a baby, go to business school, and change my job at the same time. And my husband went to business school with me as well. So all of us went to Columbia. Mia did the London Business School program.
So you married at 28 to Jason?
33.
33?
33, got married.
Was he in the SEALs at the time?
No, he had gotten out of the SEALs. We met at Guidant. We were selling pacemakers and defibrillators together. So he'd just gotten back from being out of the SEALs, and we met selling pacemakers and defibrillators. And I remember they had asked me to be his mentor, and I was like, I'm going to teach this guy how to do, it's called Ohm's Law. It's an engineering that with the pacemakers and defibrillators. It's all about the electrical conduction system of the heart. And I was like, this guy was just putting bombs together over in like Djibouti. What am I going to teach this guy?
Yeah.
So we...
and shout out to Jason and his service to the country and SEALs. Great dude.
Veterans
Backyard Brew Crew.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Yeah. He's definitely big into serving the country, and we
his
wave the
community.
flag high at our house.
That's awesome. I do as well.
Yeah, my brother-in-law also served in the Army. But we decided, so I was in med tech still. I think I just started into leadership. So I've been in leadership for 13 years and got the hook, loved leadership. And business school really helped to solidify a lot of the really tough decisions I had to make as a leader, because my whole thing for the past 7 teams that I've had is transforming cultures.
Drill down on that a little bit more, saying business school helped me figure out those tough decisions, but you didn't make the tough decisions yet. What were they showing you that you then applied later?
Yeah, so I took over a team. So as a leader, I was young. I took over this team that was very tenured, and they were the lowest.
How was that?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard, because as a 33-year-old female leading a team of 55, 60-year-old men who've been doing this for a long time.
How did they take to you?
I had been on their team when I was 23. They were the ones that taught me the pacing business, and then I came back as their leader and their boss. And they literally, I remember, manager at that time had an anchor on his desk. And the reason why the anchor was on the desk was because they were the lowest performing team in the whole country. And nobody wanted to manage this team because they had 2 very tenured sales reps that were very toxic. And there was a revolving door of leadership. And I remember calling the vice president at the time and saying, hey.
Were they the top people on the sales team?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course they were. So
they
everyone
called the
turned
shots.
a blind eye and said, we're going to accept this behavior and we're going to allow it because they bring in the most revenue in the company.
Yeah.
Yet the performance was going down. The culture was rock bottom.
It didn't exist because everybody kept leaving.
Terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember calling that vice president and saying, I was in business school and I said, I want to be that manager. And they were like, you're 30, I never knew you wanted to lead a team. I said, no, I want to, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to improve the performance, but I also wanted to transform the culture. And I wanted to allow the people that were there an opportunity to actually love what they do.
Yeah.
And went in, and within 6 months,
You fired them.
Yeah, but before that, the vice president said, we'll allow you to go in there, Carla, but you cannot lose $1 of revenue. And I was like,
a lot of pressure.
game on, let's do it. And I went in and I assigned 2 junior reps to the senior guys. And then within 6 months, those 2 guys left. And I left a year and a half later, but when I left, the culture had transformed and the team actually went, they never got to number 1, which was always my goal, but they got to the top 10 teams in the country out of like 40 teams.
Still, that's amazing. And how large was that business?
At that time it was probably $50 million of revenue.
At 33, you said?
I was 33.
Yeah, that's a large business to run.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. But someone had given me a book called The No Asshole Rule. And I remember reading it. And then in business school, we discussed it. And to me, it just helped to further solidify that there are emotionally expensive people on teams that may bring in a lot of revenue, but they're very toxic to the cultures. And that's when I kind of got the hook on loving to lead teams and improving cultures.
So I come from the finance space, and this is about you two. It's not about me, but I see that, and I've seen it forever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I've been almost the rebel on the outside saying, F that guy. I don't care how much business he does. He ain't helping me or the next guy or the next guy or next guy. And you're spending all of your energy keeping him happy, and he'll never be happy.
Yeah.
He'll never be happy.
the
And a lot
asshole
of times
tax.
I hang on the outside of the organizations because that's where I can just rock my own little culture.
Yeah.
Because those people, sadly, in the finance space are still not pushed out.
Yeah.
Kudos to you for being strategic and thinking bigger and getting that done. And you both were in business school. You had gone over to London. You were growing this business. You took it from 0 to $20 million. There was no payday.
No.
How does that feel?
It was horrible. I was
Yeah.
angry.
That's when the entrepreneur sucks,
I
right?
was like, this is BS.
So you took that company to 20 million, and your organization, you also took a job in leadership. Where did you both go from there? You're now, how old? 32, 33, 34? Kids yet? Were you married yet?
You went to Russell Reynolds.
I was married. I
You
was
went from
having my first
Medtronic
kid.
yeah.
They wanted, so the one point I'll just bring up, they were the lowest performing team, and by the time I left, we were the top performing team in the country. And we got invited to the Founders Castle in Germany, and we got a big party. And so everybody, like, they called us the Land of Misfit Toys because I took over this team that was the Land of Misfit Toys. But when we fired Ray and everybody got a chance to like be able to sell because people wanted to affiliate with ourselves, we were the #1 team in the country. And it was a really proud moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was amazing. And so after that, I was like, I'm kind of done. I don't know, I'm done with medtech. And I was like angry I didn't have equity, angry that I wasn't able to capture that upside, and like inspired that I could find that somewhere else.
Yeah. Where did you start thinking this equity piece? Obviously, the ESOP helped you figure that out and kind of learn those ways. But an ESOP is not really so much equity as in like a startup.
Right.
What made you think that way?
It was my husband.
Your husband?
Yeah. My
so
husband.
you had been engaged him at the time, and he was like, hey, I'm in finance. This is what you want.
Yeah, he's like, you just grew the business from 0 to 20 in 4 years, and you got no participation in that. And
he
I
was an
actually got
entrepreneur?
less. He's Now he is, but he was not he is a numbers guy. He's like, this doesn't make sense. You're working your butt off. You have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
You're actually
this
getting
less.
This
is how much they made.
This is what they made. Exactly. He'll run the numbers. He's like, and you're
He's an MIT brilliant mind.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm
you're
just a brick
sucker.
kid, but I think the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hold on. Like, they made this off of you.
Standard margins.
They are your biggest cost.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you guys both at the time started a family. Let's say your mid-30s.
Yeah.
Did you take a step back at the time?
No.
You just kept going.
Kept going. Yeah. I mean, I married an incredible person who is very supportive of me and my drive and my career. He said that when I went on maternity leave, it was probably the most rocky that we've ever had in our relationship.
Go back to work.
Oh gosh. He said I would if the mailman didn't come exactly at the same time every day, I was like, where's the mailman? Where's the mailman? He's like, oh, you need to go back to work, Carla. I always love working. I love having teams. I love building teams. I love transforming cultures. And I think that he knew that. And I love being a mom, though. I mean, I love, I have a daughter who's 14. I have a son who's 10. And I think I'm pretty present for them. But
sales jobs allow for that.
Well, yeah, you don't have to go into an office. I mean, I have a virtual office. So I work from home. I travel quite a bit because I have the whole country as my,
But you're home the rest of the time.
Yeah. So, but I get to go out. I get to, I think it's important as a vice president of sales to have a pulse with the customer and also lock arms with your field people to understand what kind of obstacles they have in their way and, what their day-to-day grind is. But I also have incredible directors that help me to elevate up concerns or issues
That's scale,
in the field.
right?
Exactly.
And, you're
It's
running
leverage.
It's, there's a couple different ways of leverage, right? Money, leverage, other people's money.
Yeah.
And
Human capital.
And human capital, right?
Yeah.
The time. I leverage Big Matty that you guys are very complimentary of. Matty, they love you. Matt helps run a lot of pieces of my business that allow me to do what I do best.
Yep.
Right? So as these directors are kicking up to you certain problems, you can help them create solutions. But I want to bring it back to sometimes sales gets a negative stigma, like, oh, you're selling me or you're in sales. Like, you're the cash register. You're the cashier of the food place, of the retail shop, of the business. You have to get the sales in and then get them out and make sure there's no waste. And at the same time, you get to really, in a sense, dictate your schedule, right?
Yeah.
And you are busy, but I'm busy, and if I can get it done and be efficient and get the end result, I can then take the rest of the time and do what I want to do with it, which is spend time with your family.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome. Yeah. What makes you love building culture so much? What is it?
Oh, this could be a whole other podcast.
Oh my God.
I know. Mia's annoyed. Mia's rolling her eyes. I love this is my 7th team that I've had where I've been able to come in and,
All within Medtronics.
Well, one was at Boston Scientific, but within Medtronic. So I'm in the safety of Medtronic, but I've had 7 different jobs. And I love going in and figuring out, I love learning about the organization. I love learning about how we can improve their performance. But I also love to understand how we can improve their quality in terms of how they work.
So 2 questions, piggybacking off that. What would you say if you had a graph and then you had the data over time? What are the patterns of what is the number one thing that is affecting performance on an organization or a team?
Yeah, so bad leadership.
Bad leadership.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it's bad. It's leaders who don't dig in, who don't get into the foxhole with their people, who don't listen to them,
They're
who don't
absent.
understand them, who don't help them, and don't understand what motivates them.
And for the leaders who are doing that now, what do you think leads them, no pun intended, to being that way? Is it just it's too big or they get fat cat? Like, what happens?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. I think that they feel like if they elevate their concerns from their team and nothing happens, they get frustrated.
Yeah.
And they stop elevating the concerns because they know that nothing's going to happen. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. They feel like their voice isn't heard.
So being able to maneuver and have the right people that you can punch above your weight inside of a corporation.
Yep.
That would make me nuts. I am not a guy for a corporation.
Yeah.
I'd be calling the CEO every day, like, you're going to fire me, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to fire me if you don't give me what I need to win.
And I think that it's important, though, especially in my organization, we have 21 operating units. So we have 21 businesses that report up to our CEO. So when you have somebody that can navigate the complexities of the organization and, get what we need to get done and figure out who the right person is to call to say, hey, we need extra headcount. These people are like, there's the competition has 5 people to our 1 person. We need extra headcount. So if you have an effective leader who can actually,
dissect that information quickly and take action.
But also influence influence the fact that we can get extra DD or direct distribution, that's an effective leader. So that's what I've always wanted to surround myself with, are people that can elevate up quickly, wrap their arms around the field, care about. Like I always say, I like to surround myself with leaders who are capable and they care.
Servant leadership.
Exactly. They're capable of executing a strategy, but they care not just about winning, but about their people.
I'm not allowed to talk too much about my business. Compliance is always watching. But life insurance is something I do in conjunction with a lot of estate strategies and tax strategy. And Mehran Asadi has a book called Cause. I'm pretty sure the last 5 years it's been in a lot of airport. It's him.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it.
He's Middle Eastern. He's got his hands out, and it's called Cause. Read it. Servant leadership. Yeah, President's Club, Chairman's Club.
Yeah.
He's the guy handing out the drinks, hanging out with you,
Yeah.
and he means it.
Yeah.
He means it. And that's tough to find. So Medtronic has 21 verticals of their, wow.
21. Well, actually, we just did a divestiture of 2 of them, so our lung and our patient monitoring business.
Still, that's a lot.
It's
big
a lot.
business.
It's a big business. Yep.
So I want to keep the balance here. You guys both have awesome stories, and it's in lockstep, but again, both different. What were you doing as she continued to grow these organizations within Medtronic?
So I decided to take a pivot. I was like, I was done with med tech, and
Why?
I just felt like
The time
it was
under
like
it?
weekends, nights. It was all consuming, and I really did want to I wanted to find a path towards getting a piece of the equity. And I was like, we work our butts off. I was focused on it. I was like, we work our butts off. Like, I want to be able to participate in the upside. And so my path there was not direct, but back to my husband, he was like, you love building teams and you love healthcare technology. Well, you should look at executive search. And so I took a total left turn in my career.
Quickly, for the people watching, what does executive search mean?
Yeah, so executive search is essentially, as you think about all these companies, the Medtronics of the world, the big companies, they have CEOs, they have CFOs, they have a whole
SVP.
C-suite of leaders. And so there's a very niched industry out there that will build networks, back to our network point, build networks and find a way.
Fireside's got a network. They have these 2 killers.
Exactly. Build networks and be able to find the right leader for that company. And so I went into executive search for 2 years. I loved it. I was like, this is like connecting the dots nonstop.
And you already had some great connections.
Yeah.
Right? Now, how many years were you already in pharma and medical?
I mean,
12.
it was 15 actually, because it was 15 years. I did 15 years of med tech and 10 years of executive
search. And you were
search.
overseas. Like, you had a lot of contacts.
Yeah. Had a lot of contacts.
Yeah, me as a natural connector.
Well, I just love it. If you
Well, it
feel
seemed like you guys were feeding each other on a lot of things.
People. We always say that. We love
I know,
people.
we love people.
We love people. We love learning about them. We love connecting them to great opportunities.
Instantly
Like
tonight,
that's where our oxygen is.
You guys were so kind. You brought me a beautiful bottle of bourbon, and you were loving up my family. I could tell you're both people. You're regular people.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like
relatable.
And you want to see people succeed and be the best version of themselves. And like what Carla does at Medtronic, and then what I did at Executive Search, I was like, how cool is this? I'm talking to a private equity firm that needs a CEO to run their portfolio company, and I'm going to call this person and potentially change their lives because like I'm connecting them to the opportunity.
Yeah.
And not just their lives, but the whole company's
Oh my
life.
God.
Everybody's life.
Like if you bring in somebody with a good culture.
Nothing makes me happier. I just talked to one of the guys I placed 5 years ago. He's like, Mia, changed my life. He's like, we had 2 exits. Never, ever in my life did I ever think I would be able to participate in this upside, doing everything that I love to do. And I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, he was a C-level guy, and you had placed him in another startup that was about to
Exactly.
go to the moon.
So he was in a big company,
So you essentially were a recruiter, really.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's recruiting.
Yeah.
And at the C-suite level. So recruiting, but always in the C-suite for private equity and venture. And that was my entree into private equity and venture, just getting exposure into that world.
Yeah, and you started to realize, like, hey, there's a lot of these deals going on.
Yes.
And again, you go back to equity. How do I get involved in that?
Exactly. I was like, this is eye-opening to me. We all work the same amount. If you're going to work the same and you're going to get good results, why don't you get a piece of it?
Would you agree? And this is my point of
Yeah.
view, that it at the end of the day, it comes down to people and relationships.
Oh, totally.
And again, you have to have the opportunity
Totally.
too.
Yeah.
But if I have the people,
Yeah.
I have the opportunity.
Well, and that's what...
And it's on all fronts, right?
Yeah.
Because this guy doesn't have the opportunity over here, but this guy does.
Yeah.
But I have this guy he needs.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the audible in the
them.
Super Bowl that comes in. That's the play that hasn't been run all year, and
Yeah.
he wins the Super Bowl. But he only did one play. Mm-hmm. And they just don't know each other yet.
Well, and if you can be the broker of that, that's
Exactly.
power. That is powerful.
There's Vig there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's powerful. And that's what the company I went to after I did 2 years of a traditional executive search model. And then I was like, this guy recruited me, and that was basically an equity-driven model where he would take equity in lieu of cash fees for executive searches. So he would go.
Say that one more time.
So he would say to the private equity firms, "I'll do your search," which
Yeah.
typically they'd pay.
Don't pay me the fee. Give me the equity.
Don't give me the fee. Give me equity.
And what would the fee be at that level?
A couple $100,000.
So, then, and a startup doesn't really want to give up that capital, right?
Exactly.
But she
That's
gets the
exactly
equity.
it.
It's capital intense.
We take equity,
Yeah.
and we'll do some, we have to keep the lights on, so we'll do some searches for cash. But our goal was always to find the smartest money and to get in on the deal and get access to the deal. And that paid dividends.
But it was risky, but
Super
you guys
risky.
were,
Yeah, super risky, but we
calculate
had
the
like a
risk.
lot of young people so they could take the risk.
Yeah.
And you doubled down
Doubled
on
down.
that,
Yep.
and then got involved and said, hey, we're a search firm, and we're doing well, and we're placing these deals that are winning. How do we now get involved deeper in these deals or take larger shares on the cap table, right? What did you do from there?
And that was, we started a venture studio. And so then we started building companies, and we owned all the equity, and we would place those leaders. So back to your point, we're like,
You controlled
wow.
the relationships.
What's that?
You controlled the relationships.
Well, and I mean, the way we started it was our founder was like, product market fit, interesting, but if you don't have the right people, it doesn't matter. So start with the people through the executive search firm, build a network, build an ecosystem, and then let's build, because we're helping all these private equity and venture firms get rich by putting the right leaders in. Let's build our own companies and then put those leaders in and own all the economics. And so through the EBITDA of the search firm, we built a venture studio, $1.5 million that would pay people salaries to build companies. We owned all the equity in the companies. And then when we would place the CEO.
So was the studio being pitched all the time by startups?
No, because the studio was a startup. The venture studio was basically, they would bring in executives and residences, or they would bring in entrepreneurs that would build companies, build ideas, and we would wrap
And they were just giving them
resources
some
around it.
capital to do it, and then you already had the people to run it after that.
Yep. And then we'd grow them. We would connect them to anchor clients through the executive search side of the business, and then we would.
So it became a private equity firm.
It became it became a platform. It became like an ecosystem and a platform. It was a venture studio, a venture fund eventually, and an executive search firm. And so it was a very synergistic, like back to our whole.
Yeah, it all just, we were talking about earlier with Fireside, yeah.
Totally, network, ecosystem. It created this incredible network effect.
And talk about back to EBITDA. So for someone who doesn't know what that means, describe that.
So EBITDA is expenses before interest and tax. Depreciation, appreciation.
Go back to your Columbia days.
Essentially what they did is they leveraged their P&L and their cash flow to go and front these businesses to do what they were already doing for other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you took that over from there.
Yeah, and our goal was to zero. We didn't care about cash. Every year we're like zero out on the balance sheet.
Equity.
We wanted equity. We were like
3x,
every
4x,
dollar we bring
5x.
in, we're going to roll the dice on it and see you in 10 years, you're going to be 20x. And that's the way we did it.
And how large is your company today?
Well, I moved. So the company that I left, the last time I checked, we had given out $100 million in exits.
Wow.
So the company itself, I don't actually know how much is under management, but we paid back $100 million to the company in 10 years.
And today, what is the company you're with?
I'm with a private equity firm, and I got introduced to that through the last company I was at, and now I'm at a private equity firm, 40 years old, 31 billion AUM. We just raised a 14th fund, and we focus in healthcare and in technology investments.
We're gonna have to get back to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get back to that. So
Her job is really fun.
It's fun.
It's
I love
fun.
it. I love it.
just sitting
She
here.
is where I was at Lilly.
Yeah,
right?
I'm a nerd. I'm like, I love my
I
job.
love my job.
Well,
It's the greatest job ever.
Well, you're bought in, and it's exciting because you're learning again,
Yes.
and you see the equity again,
Yes.
Yeah.
and the end result.
Yeah.
While other people are being helped along the way and making money along the way
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, but she's taking her relationships and the experience that you learn from
Yes.
Oxyon.
Totally. It's like a building block.
Yeah.
Just my question: why aren't you over there?
Oh, Jesus.
Medtronics, don't be mad at me. I don't know. And I know you do, and you are the drink the Kool-Aid.
She is.
You are. You
She's like
love
a
your
perfect
company.
Perfect employee for
And you
Medtronic.
love your leaders, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Medtronics is blessed to have you. If I was the recruiter, I'd pay her millions of dollars to steal her.
Thank
Just
you.
saying, they should pay her more, or make her an SVP. But
Yeah.
what holds you back? Because this show is a lot about, from my perspective, I don't do well in that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't.
I can't listen to this
Yeah.
boss that does this when I have this creative brain and I
Yeah.
have this drive that just goes, this motor, it's like, dude, this steam engine that just like, once it's running, you're not stopping me.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got this organization up and running, and then you pull this out from underneath me, I'm going berserk, and
Yeah.
I'm getting fired. HR is not happy with Ryan.
I know.
I'm just
He's
that
gone
guy.
rogue. Brian's gone rogue.
That's just who I am. I'm an honest
We have
guy.
a runner. We got a runner.
This guy's a rebel. We like him. He's now become toxic. Carla's firing me. He's toxic. Get him
No,
out.
and what's funny
love
is
the rebels.
The
Yes.
people on so I took over this organization 2 years ago, and I brought in rebels,
Yeah.
and it's fun because
Yeah.
Jeff Bartha, our CEO, put us all into our own silos where we own our own P&L, and it's fun because I brought over, changed the leadership. I brought in my people that run.
And again, how many? When you talk about leadership, how many leadership is underneath your business in the P&L?
Yeah, so in my business, we do about 450 million.
Nationally.
Nationally. I have 140 sales reps. I've got 3 directors. I've got a project coordinator. I've got a finance partner. I've got a marketing partner.
What does the finance partner do? Just curious.
She's the best, Stephanie Beckham. She's awesome. She reports up just how our trends of the business are going.
So she's analyzing the data and
Yeah,
the
we
trends.
forecast. So
Forecast.
Medtronic's a big public company, so we need to make sure that our forecasts are pretty tight.
Yep.
On what we elevate up to
You
our
got to give
CEO.
the proper data. Yeah.
Yeah, we're beholden to Wall Street. So, we have a big team, and I'm lucky because the team is awesome. But what I love about Medtronic is I've been in this big organization. I call it like the land of opportunity, especially for young people. I help a lot of young people get into med tech. And Medtronic is the best, in my opinion, because you literally are walking into the land of opportunity where you can reinvent yourself. You've got 21 companies.
Do you deal with anybody who runs your TNA
My talent
or TNE?
Oh, yeah.
The travel and entertainment side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
So
got a-
Matt's wife did that for a long time.
wow.
For their whole organization shifted after for Bristol.
Oh, Bristol Myers. Yeah, great
and
company.
She was traveling the world.
Yeah.
I should connect you with her. She's very good at what
Oh,
she
I'd love
does.
to meet her. Yeah,
Yeah.
we travel quite. I was in Ireland 3 times in the last 6 weeks, and because we've got a plant over in Ireland, so we're always over there.
But those people who do the travel and entertainment and organize all that
Our
and
meetings.
the conference and meet the vendors, that's a lot
It's
of
a
work.
skill.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you've got to smile when people are very upset.
Very
and,
nasty to you.
Oh yeah. But I've the thing that you asked me that question. The thing that I've loved about Medtronic is every 2 to 3 years I've been able to reinvent myself and take over organizations that either had cultural issues or performance issues and bring in a team of people that matched my pace and shine a light on the organization and let them feel heard, but also execute a strategy in terms of helping to get to the performance goals that the company
Did they
has
give you
asked
more
of us.
equity for that?
I mean, as a vice president, you get equity, you know.
How's the stock doing?
Oh,
She's coming after
she's
you.
mean, I know.
She's coming after
Mean.
you. You feed off. Your tank is filled by seeing this problem and creating a solution, and then helping that people within that organization win, and that's special. But I do go back, like her husband, and like, to the numbers.
Sure.
Right, and I see a lot of the people who are the entrepreneurs, like do all this, like they blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff, and at the end of the day, I know you're doing fine and you're living very good, but do you see yourself, you know, at the end of your career saying, "Hey, I'll go do something similar to Mia," or?
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I actually, the position that I'm in now, if you look at my career development program, you know, at Medtronic, you've got these HR things. This was my drop the mic moment, was being a vice president of sales for a national organization. I thought this is where I retire. So I'm 47.
But you conquered it.
Yeah, I feel like
you're still very young.
Yeah, but you know, we have a really cool technology to help patients with hypertension that we're building for, and we're gonna launch for renal denervation, and that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Because for me, my purpose or my mission to help patients live healthier lives, you live that through Medtronic. Mm-hmm. So I think that people that are in Medtronic love the fact that there's a purpose and there's a mission, and we have access to incredible technology.
One mission, you have access to a lot of capital, a lot of research.
Yeah, we have amazing people, like the most brilliant minds that live in our organization. And again, like I've been here for 11 years, but I've had 7 different jobs. Mm-hmm. So I've been able to reinvent myself and have access to...
It's fun. It's new. It's challenging.
Yeah, every couple of years. Like I love the fact that I've been able to touch pacemakers and defibrillators and build transcatheter aortic valve teams, and then now, you know, serve the coronary stents, but also help to build for renal denervation. So that scratches my itch, or itches my scratch, however you want to say it, in terms of like reinvigorating sales organizations and then helping them to, you know, increase their value, whether that's a performance or whether that's culture. So that to me is what's fulfilling.
And that's awesome. I always go back to what is increasing my pocket, right? You know, I'm just, you know, I don't love these organizations. I think they, and Medtronic is, I'm saying this, not her, she loves you. You know, it's you take advantage of these people.
Yeah.
Does she try to, you know, recruit you daily?
She knows how.
So talking about women in business and being successful, we're all aware of these, you know, scorecards and these color coding nowadays, right? The board has to do it.
Yep.
And it's something that you both are passionate about. You had launched this
nonprofit
501c3, right? Called Break Into the Boardroom.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I came over to the venture side and got exposed to venture and private equity, I was like, where are all the women? This is crazy, because I came from a big company where there were amazing women. And when you go to venture and private equity, there's not a lot of women. And I think for lots of reasons. Women are risk averse, women are loyal. Like there's lots of reasons why there are not women. And most of the investors are men.
Women are being moms.
What's that?
A lot of women are being moms.
Yeah.
You know,
they're moms, they're working.
Yeah, and also it's just like private equity is a guy's world, right? The venture private equity world's mostly men.
Why? Why do you?
Because I think that I think that men are risk takers. Yeah. They also follow the money, and there's, you know, money to be made in terms of like being able to invest. They feel more comfortable taking the risk. I think, you know, a lot of these places, like it's a bit of this snowball effect where you've got a bunch of, you know, guys that start and then they bring in their guys, and that's just the reality of networks.
Buddies, they're
people they
friends.
trust.
Networks.
I mean, it's people who they trust.
It's networks. And so my whole thing was, there's a lot of amazing women out there, and so how do we build bridges to private equity? And particularly in healthcare, you know, the majority of women are healthcare decision makers. The majority of women are healthcare, they're buyers of healthcare. So if you don't have women in the boardroom helping to make the most important strategic decisions in the business.
Maximizing.
What's that? Yeah, you're not maximizing. You've got blind spots in your strategy. Yeah. And so for me, diversity is a business strategy, not like a box checker. And so started this program with another woman in private equity, basically being like, how do we get more women into these roles? and essentially started it 7 years ago. Every year we bring 40 women that are nominated by CEOs or private equity investors that are like board-ready women, C-suite executives, great experiences that you want around the table. And our goal is to educate them on how to get into the boardroom and then connect the dots. And so we've placed 70 women in the boardroom.
So is it like a marketplace that these CEOs drop these names down into?
It's the organization. So basically I reach out to all my portfolio company CEOs. Leslie, my partner, reaches out and we say, who in your companies do you think is board ready? Who would you support? And then let's meet them, let's bring them to the program, and then I'm going to connect the dots on their behalf and essentially advocate for them in the private equity and venture world.
And how has that become like a business for you and Leslie?
So it's funny because it started out as like, this is
doing the right thing.
We're doing the right thing. Like we are in a privileged position as women to sit in the table with these private equity and venture investors. And so let's just do the right thing and let's provide access. But essentially what it became was for me like a branding opportunity. I get access to all these incredible women who typically wouldn't answer the phone calls of a recruiter because they're loyal and they don't want to think about leaving their jobs.
Yeah.
But when I was at my last job and I had to bring in revenue and search business, 95% of my revenue came from women that were referring me. And so because it was like this halo effect of like we're doing the right thing, people gave back to me.
I was going to say like it feeds again your whole ecosystem you have going on. And do you get involved with that at all too?
I went to the first meeting this past
last week, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to see what
because you have a ton to give to that too.
Yeah, I like.
She'd be an amazing board member.
I love giving back to. We have a huge organization at Medtronic called Aspire. And I do a lot of like road shows where I go and help females. Because when we started back in 2001, me and I always said we were in the bathroom together. It was me, Mia, and this girl Amy, and we were the only ones in the bathroom. It was all males.
Yeah.
So I always make sure that I'm a voice and I'm accessible to help females know that you can be a leader in this company. You can be a vice president of sales.
Yeah.
So I always
nationally.
Yeah, nationally.
It's
great. So I had the opportunity though to see Mia and Leslie, and what the impact that they've made in boardrooms, and it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because Mia and I, we talk about our kids and what we're doing day to day, but we really don't talk a lot about our jobs.
Mm-mm. Well, sometimes.
I'd work for both of you. I really would.
She's a much more caring leader.
I love my team. I always say my team is my work family.
She's cutting me out for equity. Ryan's gone. He knows too many people. We got to cut him out.
No, the pocket's bigger. I am a big fan of like the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. Like the pocket's bigger.
All sides rides together.
Totally.
So me and I grew up with a grandmother. We have to mention our grandmother, Grace Jung, and she always taught us like surround yourself with people that are better than you, that you would work for.
You're the average of.
Yeah, she was amazing. She always said that to us. She was an Irish woman who married a Chinese man. And she,
Shout out to the Irish.
Shout out to the Irish
and the Chinese. And to the Chinese. We're 25%. But she grew up in an orphanage and she didn't know, what good looked like. And she married our grandfather and she made sure that we knew that every voice matters, no matter what your ethnicity, no matter what your gender, no matter what your upbringing, whether you're rich, whether you're poor. And she's the one that really taught us that you are the company you keep. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why when we, build companies or build businesses or build teams, we have this moral compass and this value set that we refuse to surround ourselves with people that don't hold those values in the same way that we do.
So this show is called Fireside America.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like bad media and things thrown around for the last 10 years in this country and around the world about women, men, gender, this, that. I personally believe America is still the most beautiful place in the world to thrive in any organization that you want to thrive in, start any business you want to thrive in, because you have leaders in all types of indices like yourselves, like myself, who are helping create opportunity because you said it earlier, and again, the term was good. Or was it you, Carla? It was learn, earn, pass it on.
Learn it, return it.
Yeah. And I think that is happening much more than people want to put an emphasis on. They want to put an emphasis on negativity.
Yeah.
And you guys, starting with your grandma,
Yeah.
are a testament to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to give back.
You're giving back, and you're not just
Yeah.
giving back to women. You're helping
No,
people
to
within the
everybody.
organization that are also
Everybody.
High
men.
performers. I don't care what gender, which ethnicity, like anybody that's a high performer that has grit and has hustle.
Yeah.
Like we respect
Or
that.
people that like you want to provide access and you want to
Yeah,
educate about
of
different
course.
things. Like even anybody that just you want to shine a light on an industry that they don't know about because they hadn't been exposed to it.
Yeah, and that's leadership. You shine a light on people that haven't had a light. Like we're lucky.
Yeah.
We've had incredible parents who have always been our advocates, and we have each other.
You need an
Yeah.
advocate.
And we,
Yeah.
we can punch each other in the nose and say you stunk, or we can say
It's a hockey fight, You get into a
Yeah.
hockey fight and you blow it out and you get it out and then you're over it.
Both better.
Yeah, but we're
Yeah.
not. I think we realize how lucky we are. I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't have parents that we had
Hudson's
or don't have.
coming to visit you.
Hi, buddy.
Oh my God, you smell Mickey, don't you? Yes.
He smells. He needs a bath. You both are killing it. You're amazing women, leaders, moms, wives. To round this out, I'd like to ask a couple questions. In a sense, you are now a business owner in private equity. We could have dove deeper into private equity, but I don't want to keep you all night.
Yeah.
We could have dove deeper into, pacemakers and what you're doing now in your organization. But if you guys could give a young entrepreneur or someone looking to really excel up a corporation sales force, what is one thing that you would leave them? It may be a saying, it may be a thought, and I want something from both of you.
Well,
Go ahead.
do it. Okay. So I always have a couple of things that I say to, especially the young females. Make sure you have a strong network. Make sure that you don't have your head down. I love the loyalty, but I think that it's really important for you to make sure that you always have a strong network of mentors and sponsors and people that can connect you to other opportunities. And I think it's great to take a risk. I mean, I know I live in this big corporate environment, and Mia's always like, "You're so boring." But I have been a risk taker.
But there's risk there too.
I've taken, I've done every 2 to 3 years, I've taken over different organizations and I've infused value in them, whether that's from a performance and a cultural standpoint. So I think that, making sure that you have great leaders, you have a great network, you have a good sponsor, but believe in yourself. But also you have to make sure that you're performing in the position you're in, that you have a strong image of people that are around you, and that you have exposure to the right people that have influence in terms of helping to bring you along in their journey.
You become the hunted, not the hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And what is yours? What would be something that you would lend to a young...
I think mine is like find something you're passionate about and just be relentless. Be relentless about it.
And don't limit your beliefs.
Don't limit yourself. Just keep going. Have your moral compass and your North Stars, and those will lead you and provide clarity during tough times. But find something you're passionate about and just be relentless in following those
And
things.
you don't need to know all the answers right now.
No.
Something I've discovered
Totally.
is if you just take action, there's a lot of people that hate where they are and they don't know the next step and they
Right.
have to have the perfect
Right.
roadmap. No.
Right.
Just take action,
Yeah.
and then the action will lead you to your answers.
100%.
I've discovered that.
And that's the other thing. It's
Agree.
be comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You're going to be uncomfortable, and that's where you learn and grow, and you got to breathe into it.
Yeah.
And I want to, your
Yeah.
organization, the private equity, and what you're involved in now. How large is that organization? It's a pretty big shop, right?
It's only about 100 people. It's 31 billion AUM, and our 14th fund will be about 5 billion.
Yeah. So let's say $36 billion AUM in your space, in the private equity space. That's not small numbers, and it was bootstrapped.
Yeah.
That was Oxyon. Was
going around
bootstrapped. Yeah, this
yeah.
one's got LPs in it. It's got limited partners, but
All right.
Oxyon was bootstrapped. Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
That's a great organization
Yeah.
that from Xerox father who said that you were going to be a
yeah.
salesperson
Yeah.
into the pharma space,
Yeah.
into med tech, to where you are today. That is super impressive.
Yeah.
And same thing with you, Carla. You're running a national sales organization. So for those of you who aren't in that space, I am as well. That is huge. A national sales organization, you're working with all different types of locations, markets, different people,
Stakeholders.
right? Different stakeholders. Personalities.
You gotta love people.
Different regs, right? Different regulations in different states. It's a lot for you to handle and run, and you both have been super impressive. the last question I like to do, because this is about our local business owners, and give us 2 local businesses that you guys love, one each.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Warm. We got to give a shout out to
I was
Natalie.
gonna say Warm.
Sorry,
Natalie.
Thunder Road.
Warm, Thunder Road, the Bottle Shop,
Borelli's.
Borelli's,
Carmen and Leah.
Tom Bailey's.
Tom Bailey's. Yeah.
All great
We like
spots.
seafood. Well, Charlie's.
We got to get more. We got to get Natalie on. I told
Natalie.
Basil.
She's got a great story.
Yeah.
She has a great story.
Yeah. I met her frequently at the parties through Basil, and
No, she worked on set at Friends.
yeah.
And look at what she built. She built this Warm business.
We got to get her story on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Well, you guys have been awesome. You are both absolutely killing it. You're great leaders for all business owners and all people who want to be entrepreneurs, but also definitely for women. And I encourage more women to get on this show. Don't be intimidated by me or the beard or the flannel. Like,
Or the cigar or the bourbon.
Cigar or the bourbon. We like to talk shop. You guys, know way more than I do in your space. But we had a great dialogue here, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so
this
much,
was fun.
Ryan.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's
Cheers.
awesome.
Thanks
Cheers.
for having
Your
us.
low carb IPA.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks, babe.